I think this is kind of the trajectory that they thought this group would be on. 2 years ago, obviously, things were a lot different. We wanted the O-line coach Barnett gone. Things were struggling on the offensive line. This is the result of time. And I think Kirk Ferentz would kind of argue that they knew exactly what they had, give them some time, learn from the guys, that have had so much success on the offensive line just within the Iowa program. And this is what you get.
How many times have we heard you can't microwave experience from Kirk Ferentz and George Barnett? I mean, that's just been a repeated theme, right? I would say it's slightly better from this standpoint. If you're a nerd like me and you like Pro Football Focus, Iowa is the #1 ranked run blocking team in the country. 4 of the top 8 linemen across college football are ranked. I mean, they're all Iowa Hawkeyes, right? I mean, Logan Jones, Bo Stevens, I think, is ranked #2 right now. Again, you look at the experience. I got Jengs Dunker, looks like he's going to be a first or second round pick. I'd say early day 2 at this point. Logan Jones, I would say, is the best center in all of college football. And then you get a fifth-year quarterback like Mark Gronowski, who, let's face it, with as great as the Iowa offensive line is right now, it helps having a mobile quarterback that can get out of bad situations, make the offensive line look a little bit pretty too. But I think you have to tip your cap to Barnett because he adopted a room where, let's face it, they did not have 5 starting caliber offensive linemen. And for them to kind of turn in to what they have now, it's impressive. But now it's about, can they continue to raise the standard and maintain who they have? Because you think about how much they're going to lose next year. I know we don't want to think about next year already.
No.
They're going to have to replace quite a bit.
Absolutely. Well, we said we were going to talk about the defensive side of the ball. Let's start off with that blocked punt. I thought this was a crucial part of the game just because Scarlet Knights driving on the field, defense finally forces a field goal attempt. The game was still tied 21-21 at this point in the third quarter, I believe. And then this is when Ethan Hurkett stuck up his hand in time to block the kick. And then that was the second missed field goal attempt by Rutgers. So if you start adding these points up, it's like, well, that's 6 points off the board, that could have been a game changer. Instead, Hurkett is the game changer in this one.
I mean, that's exactly what you expect out of your team captain and a guy that's made a ton of plays throughout his career. And remember, that Rutgers kicker had made 18 straight field goals before he clanked the first one. Then obviously Hurkett got the second one. We talk about how big momentum is in college football. And again, when you have a guy who's a gamer like Mark Gronowski, he thrives in these type of situations. And I think Iowa in general just need a major kind of boost or a kick in the butt just to kind of continue the momentum in terms of trying to bury the Scarlet Knights. Because remember, this was a blackout crowd. This was a record-setting crowd in front of SHI Stadium. And for Iowa to go in there and deliver in that big a moment, and Ethan Hurkett, who he reminds me of like Joe Evans, right? It's kind of an undersized guy from Cedar Rapids, Xavier. Got hurt early in his career, and the way he's bounced back and really, I think, made such an impact. Go back to the Nebraska game a couple of years ago. Go back to the blocked field goal from last week. Like, this is a guy who can rally the defense, and I think he learned a ton of it from Joe Evans, and I think that's why he's undoubtedly one of the biggest leaders on this Iowa team.
Yes, and we are also talking heading into this week a little bit about how Seth Wallace was calling the Doughboys the No Boys, because they had not had a takeaway yet
it's
this season.
Seth Wallace too. That's the best part. It's so on brand.
Well, guess what? The Doughboys are no longer the Doughboys. They are the Doughboys. Jackson Rexroth had that interception against Kaliak Manis about 6-ish minutes to play in the game, and that obviously set up Iowa's second TD in the fourth quarter. You saw Max Llewellyn obviously hurried Kaliak Manis into throwing the first interception. Another Xavier guy, Jackson Rexroth, though, getting that interception. And we were kind of taking bets on who would, kind of make the first play. But I'm glad to see Rexroth get it. And it was a crucial moment in the game.
Yeah.
And I have to stress that Ethan Hurkett, obviously crucial moment, and then Rexroth, crucial moment. You saw the defense come up at big moments this week.
No, and I think that's what you want to see, especially when you think about the 3 long touchdown drives they gave up, right? It would have been easy for that to continue to have a domino effect in the second half. But why is Phil Parker the best defensive coordinator of the country? The adjustments. They only gave up 1 touchdown in the second half. They've outscored their opponents 53-10 this season in the second half. They dialed up a few more blitzes, and you could tell Kaliak Manis, for as great as he was in that first half, he was rattled in that second half. So I think you need to give credit to the linebacker blitzes. Carson Shire made a couple really nice plays. Max Llewellyn got in the backfield. Jackson Rexroth making that, again, game-changing interception. We'll see if that has a domino effect now, because I think that was their 5th straight game they've had without a turnover. And you think of Phil Parker defense, how opportunistic they are. So for them to kind of get that off their back, I think is a big deal. Now I want to see Iowa have a chef's hat on the sideline for the Doughboys. They just put the chef's hat on instead of a cap between plays. No, that Miami has a turnover chain.
Yep.
I want to see a chef's hat.
Okay. I'm sure they can make that happen. One thing, though, on the defense, though, I do want to point out is giving up 28 points to Rutgers. That has not always panned out well. Last season, when Iowa did give up 28 points, they gave up those against Michigan State, Ohio State. Those both ended in losses. So, yes, Iowa made those adjustments in the second half. However, giving up 28 points, that is not a position that they need to be in.
No, and you think about how great this Indiana team coming in is, right? I mean, this is a team that just throttled number 9 Illinois 63-10, and Kurt Signetti is not exactly the guy to take his foot off the gas pedal. If he sees a weakness in a defense, he's going to continue to exploit it time and time and time again. And that's what Rutgers did, I thought, especially in that first half, because they had that 6'6" receiver. They had big body receivers. What'd they do? They continued just to fire the ball downfield and make Iowa's defensive backs make plays. So I think this is a very big week for Phil Parker. I think it's a massive week for that defensive back room. TJ Hall looks like he's taking a significant step forward. You know, Deshaun Lee, Jalen Watson, a couple of those safeties. Cohen Entringer's been good as well. They're going to be tested deep if Iowa cannot get home. At Fernando Mendoza, who, by the way, is outstanding at escaping the pocket and making throws on the run.
You bet. Before we head to break, though, I do want to ask, this Rutgers team, obviously, yes, it's a step up. Yes, it's a Big Ten opponent. We know that it's a better competition, obviously. But to face, a team that was forced to throw the ball ahead of facing an Indiana team who loves to throw the ball, that's got to be good in favor of Iowa.
No, especially since Iowa got away with the win, right? I mean, they're able to take the lessons away without suffering a big loss, because I think this Rutgers game, if they had lost that, who knows what the outside perception is of this Iowa team. Because I'll tell you what, whether Iowa wins or not, now they have a chance to be either 4-1 or 3-2. That sounds a lot better than 2-3 and 3-2 heading into that first bye week. So I think for Iowa to be tested, which, by the way, I think the Rutgers wide receiver core, I think it is one of the better ones in the Big Ten. I'm not going to go so far as the best, because Ohio State still exists.
Yes.
Indiana is also really good, but this Rutgers wide receiver core and passing game is legit. So again, now it's going to be about how do they get back in the facility, how can they clean up the mistakes, and are they going to be able to make Mendoza uncomfortable, because this is a quarterback room in Indiana, 17 touchdowns, 0 interceptions this season. I mean, they are piling on points. And by the way, their run game, they got 4 rushers with over 208 yards this season.
Yeah, we're going to talk about how scary this Indiana team is when we come back.
Pocket, and he can make the throws. He's got a strong arm. They've built
All right, welcome back in to OnIowa Live here at the Pickle Palace rooftop. Thanks for everyone for joining us in person. We are going to start with another audience question. This one is, how can Iowa do ball control offense to keep the Hoosier offense off the field?
That's why I said earlier, I think it's a slow mesh. I see so much potential with that because it's really funny, though, because we talked to Bo Stevens last week a little bit about it. And I said, how do you teach that from an offensive line perspective? And he flat out said, it goes against everything that they actually teach us, and it's just kind of just make it up as you go along. And we know how much Kirk Ferentz is an offensive line guru and how much they pride themselves on fundamentals. It's kind of adjust on the fly in the midst of a play because Gronowski could take off and run. He could fire the ball downfield. He could hand it off to Jazz Patterson. But I think that's exactly how you get this Indiana defense and get them uncomfortable, and that's going to open the door for some new things. But I also think it just helps that if Jazz Patterson can go, you utilize his violent running style. You use Kamari in an every down back situation. Toss him a couple of halfback screens. That tight end screen I thought they ran last week was great as well. It resulted in, I think, a 21-yard gain. I think that's something that can throw off that Indiana defense. But ultimately, got to run the football.
Yes.
You have to chew that clock because this Indiana team, I'll tell you, they don't care about ball control or time of possession. They're going to fire the ball downfield. They're going to go hurry up offense, and they're going to be uber aggressive. And you kind of want your defense to get a little bit of a break here and there.
Yes, agreed. Let's talk about just what Indiana did last week to Illinois, which was quite honestly embarrassed them. Number 19 at the time, Indiana beat number 9 Illinois 63-10. Illinois had 2 rushing yards. They were 1 for 10 on third downs. Their defense, Indiana's defense, 7 sacks, 10 tackles for loss. Fernando Mendoza threw for 267 yards, 5 touchdowns. Hoosiers rushed for 312 yards. I mean, obviously this was a very lopsided game, but at the same time, when you look at and just listen to some of those stats, what stands out about why the Hoosiers were able to do what they did?
I mean, it just seems like they're so bent on revenge because remember, after their one loss last year, there were a lot of people that wanted to keep them out of the college football playoff.
Right.
They competed well. They kind of padded on the stats at the end to make it a little bit closer than the game appeared. But this looks like a group that just said, you know what, we're running it back, right? Mendoza's efficiency has been incredible. He's able to escape out of the pocket. Only has about 75 rushing yards on the year, but he does it long enough to fire the ball downfield. Omar Cooper had 4 touchdowns against Indiana State. They have guys at every single position. And again, you have to consider the level of competition of their non-conference, but this is probably one of the top 3 teams, I think, in the Big Ten. I thought they were disrespected going into the year. This looks like a college football playoff caliber team. Before the season, we had talked about how Iowa's getting 3 Big Ten teams that made the college football playoff last year. These same 3 might go back again, and Ohio State's going to be in that mix as well. Yeah. So this is the first of a major opportunity, but I think it just goes back to Fernando Mendoza is proving himself to be probably a first-round pick, probably in the top half of the first round, based on most conversations I've been having with people.
Well, the Hawkeyes know exactly what they have coming to Kenning Stadium, but actually Indiana, they had their immediate availability today, and I'd like, if we can, to hear the thought from their head coach.
Won a lot of football games, that guy has. He's a great competitor. He's a big guy. He's got good mobility. They'll run him, design runs, and then there's somewhere he could give it or run it. And, they've got a good play action out of pocket game and in the pocket. And, he can make the throws. He's got a strong arm. They've built the offense around the quarterback. There's some new design there. And one thing I'm going to say about Iowa, and you guys all know this that have been in the Big Ten a while, is they've been running basically the same defense for a long time. Now there's tweaks, and they've always played great defense, and they've got great special teams. And they've always been able to run the ball really well. This quarterback, has been a guy that finds a way to get it done. But the thing about Iowa in general, they will not beat themselves. You will have to beat them. Okay, they're not going to beat themselves, and they play really well at home.
That is Curt Cignetti saying that, the Indiana head coach, and he's 100% right. They're not going to beat themselves.
That might be the nicest quote I've ever heard from Curt Cignetti, because if you paid attention to him for a little bit, he's not one to shy away from smack talk, but, he's built a program. He flipped it from, I think, one of the worst Big Ten programs to into a top 4, top 5, respectively now. And the quarterback play has been outstanding. They're winning games. They're winning in between the margins, which, we always talk about here. But, yeah, Kurt Cignetti is not a guy that bites his tongue often. And later in that press conference, he said, we're playing a better team than we did last week. And remember, Illinois is ranked number 9 in the country at that time. So he kind of likes to twist the knife a little bit once he has room to talk. But he has a lot of room to talk based on how he's performed the first couple of years.
Yeah, last week's performance for sure. I do want to mention, too, he mentioned that was obviously about Gronowski and then Caden Weegan. He has his eye on Caden Weegan. They all do. But also he addressed Kinnick and playing inside Kinnick and the noise and the fact that it is one of the hardest places to play. That obviously is going to play a factor because this was an Indiana home game against Illinois. That north end zone, though, has got to bring it this week. If they're trying to rattle Indiana, like you said, who likes to hurry things up.
Yeah. I will say this, too. I think this is the first ranked game Iowa's hosted since 2022. And I think when you talking to fans here and there over the last couple of years, they've been craving for these big matchups. I know the offense hasn't been what it needs to be, but again, they're taking significant steps. I think the crowd's going to be fired up. For some reason, it got relegated to Peacock. I think Iowa fans were kind of hoping they'd get some national attention here. But I think it's a big opportunity to kind of break free of that spell that we've talked about when it comes to ranked teams. They're 0-10 in their last 10 ranked matchups. Kinnick is a feared place to play, especially at night. It's not quite a night game, but I'll tell you, I think fans are going to be tailgating starting about 6:30, 7 o'clock. I think this is going to be a really, really fun environment.
And it should be. I still think, I don't know who it's going to be, but it's either going to be Indiana or it's going to be Oregon who comes into Kinnick. They're going to be upset. That is kind of, nationally, they've always said that is Kinnick Stadium is where top 10 teams go to die. And I still think that Iowa has some big opportunities on their schedule. This could be one. It could happen later in the season, but we will just have to see.
It's also, too, like if they go in there and they beat Indiana, we're talking about this team, challenging Penn State, challenging Oregon, because Iowa's the type of team where I think if they break free of a streak, they're going to have a domino effect on it because I think Iowa's been so due for a big win. I'm not going to sit here and say my prediction quite yet. I haven't made up my mind, but they're so due for a big win. You go back to, Petrus to Ragaini, right, in 2021. You think about the Michigan from 2016. You think you can go give countless examples, and this is still the same head coach. It's a little bit of a new system, but now, again, you have a dynamic playmaker. You have a strong offensive line. You have a strong defensive line, and before the season, Kirk Ferentz said, if you have a good O-line and you have a good quarterback, you're always going to have a chance. And I think that's something that Iowa fans, they haven't had through the past couple of years. I think they have it this year. And I think that combined with the Kinnick environment, I think this one has some juice to it. It's going to be a lot of fun on Saturday.
It should be. And just switching gears a little bit, obviously the Big Ten came out with their basketball schedules a little bit. Just last week, actually, the men's schedule, this is going to be the first first year for obviously head coach, and then a second year for Jan Jensen. So, this is going to be new, but this is fun. I think some of the things that kind of, stood out to me a little bit were their road games, their holiday games a little bit. This is the men's schedule in particular that you're seeing here. Did you get to go through these? Did you see anything that stood out to you?
Well, it's interesting. I think that early January slate when it comes to men's. Welcome to the Big Ten, Ben McCollum. There are no off days, and I think that's exactly how he wants it, right? Like they're going at UCLA. Really was hoping that Indiana was coming to Carver Hawkeye Arena for that, DeVries and Ben McCollum matchup.
Yeah,
I think the Big Ten might have missed the boat with that one. No pun intended, Minnesota. But I also would say this: I think Iowa's going to build a strong team. I think Ben McCollum's reputation speaks for itself, and I think the Iowa men's program just needed that kind of revamp of energy. You're around this. How many more people I think are genuinely excited to kind of fill Carver Hawkeye Arena? And I think Ben McCollum has done everything right from a PR standpoint, getting engaged with the community. And he's told recruits behind the scenes, you would know at HawkeyeInsider.com, by the way, he plans to retire at this job. He does not want to go anywhere. So this is an Iowan coming home. And I think that just provides that little extra burst of energy. And motivation to be able to kind of turn the program around to what he wants it to be.
You bet. And then on the women's side of things, I mean, they're heading to Disney. That's great. They're competing in tournaments once again. They're hosting Nebraska on New Year's Day. Oh, the men were on the Super Bowl Sunday. That's what I thought was kind of odd, but it is what it is. But Jan Jensen obviously made the NCAA tournament her very first year. Now the expectations are just going to be even higher, right?
and they should. I mean, Jan Jensen's been on the program for a long time. I mean, I think it spoke volumes that she is able to hold on to freshman Addie Deal. Addie Deal's a legitimate 5-star from California. I believe her cousin played basketball at Grinnell with Lisa Bluter's son, so there were some kind of connections there. But Addie Deal, I think, is a big impact player. Emily Rodriguez, the transfer from UCF. Ava Hayden, Chit Chat Wright from Georgia Tech. And by the way, they have a new post from Alaska. Like, you think about this team, recruiting coast to coast. You're going to Alaska and you're landing people from Georgia, right? Yeah. And I think that speaks to the volume of what Lisa Bluter, Caitlin Clark, Megan Gustafson, Kathleen Doyle, we can go down the list, right? They've built the brand up, and now Iowa women's basketball is a national name, and I would say it's on the Mount Rushmore of home environments. We know what the crowd looks like. It looks like they're going to sell out again. They play UConn in December. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think, for Iowa women's basketball as well.
Well, it'll be here before we know it, right? All right, when we come back, we will have more audience questions as well as our pick-ems for the week.
Welcome back to OnIowa Live. I'm Justin Roberts, along with Becca from Elite Fitness and Ability Physical Therapy. Becca, why is it important to have athletic trainers at high school events?
It's important to have athletic trainers at high school events because we're there to keep the kids safe. If anybody gets hurt, we're the first responder there to get them the help that they need.
What's the difference between a physical therapist and an athletic trainer?
The big difference is our clinical setting. So I'm typically on a football field, basketball court, in the dugouts, whereas a physical therapist is in the clinic.
And let's talk about some of the different schools that you guys serve around the area.
Yeah, we serve Marion, Centerport Urbana, Springville, Lisbon, and North Cedar.
Gotcha. And of course, next question, if schools would like your guys' service to learn more, how can they get a hold of you?
They can go to our website at chooseabilitypt.com.
All right, Becca, thank you much. Appreciate it.
All right, welcome back into OnIowa Live. Let's go to some audience questions. This one's from Tim. It says, nice catch by Howard. Using his size, will Iowa emphasize on recruiting taller receivers in the future?
I mean, I think they should.
Yeah, right?
I think from a pure X receiver perspective, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think Dayton Howard has a really high ceiling, though. I mean, very under-recruited out of the KC area, legitimately 6'5". I think he's just physically built a little bit different. I think it would help if they had one or two guys that were at least 6'4" on the roster. But I will say Tim Lester has a reputation for developing those 5'10" to 6 foot slot receivers, playing them in that Y spot as well. You know what? Think about Emir Smith-Marset that Iowa had a few years ago as well. Like, Iowa does know how to utilize some of those guys. Sky Moore from Tim Lester's Western Michigan time. I think versatility, ability to high point the ball, and being able to play a wide variety of positions, I think that's exactly what Tim Lester is looking for.
Well, and they're missing one of their tallest guys out there, Reese Vanderzee. Another question, do you think the linebackers have settled in the defense?
I think we're going to find out this week.
I
really
test,
do.
yeah.
I think this is the real test. I think they've been able to make some nice plays. I think Jaden Harrell, I think his play awareness has gotten better week by week. I think Carson Shire's done a nice job, especially in the run game. I do really worry about the linebackers' ability in coverage because from my perspective, I don't think Carson Shire should be guarding a wheel route when a halfback breaks off like that. That just seems like a little bit of a mismatch. So I'm curious if Iowa plays a little bit more of the 4-2-5 this week just to try to get some more speed on the field. But again, I don't think if you're not a step ahead against this Indiana team in play recognition, you're going to get scored on. Like, that's just how good they are at capitalizing on these opportunities. So I think if you're going to see a quote-unquote change or if they're going to be settled in, this is the week you're going to find out because you think about next week, the bye week. That might be the time you really start to think about that.
Yeah. I think Seth Wallace is going to have those guys ready no matter what. The Indiana quarterback, this is the last one, by the way, has passed for 10 touchdowns the last 2 weeks. How can Iowa slow him down?
Pin their ears back and finish in the backfield, right? Like, I think that's the big thing. If Iowa can at least get that first contact and gang tackle him and make him a little bit rattled, I think that's going to go a long way. I think the Kinnick crowd is also going to be a massive factor. This is a different stage, and I think right now Iowa's getting Indiana at probably the perfect time it could ask, because this is a team that's riding a high horse who went out there and blew out a top 10 team by 53 points. You know that they're kind of feeling themselves. I do think Kurt Signe is going to have his guys ready. But at the same time, we know that coach speak is a little bit different than the locker room. The locker room could be feeling themselves a little bit. They got to pin their ears back, and they have to make him feel rattled early and often. Yes,
I agree. Let's do our pick-ems now, starting with the obvious, Iowa, Indiana.
It's giving me every indication that I should pick Indiana after that little spiel I had. Iowa's long overdue for a win. I think Mark Gronowski is the quarterback that's going to be able to put him over the top. I think his running ability is going to separate it. Give me Iowa 30. Give me Indiana 27.
Oh, even a score prediction. I'm going Hoosiers. They were scary against Illinois. That is just my reasoning. They were scary. And this is just early in the season. Iowa's still working things out. I think Indiana is a little bit further than where the Hawkeyes are at this point. Then we got the team out west, Iowa State, back from a bye. They are facing Arizona. Who do you got in this one?
I rely on quarterback play. I think Rocco Beck's a top 5 quarterback in college football. I think he's one of the best ball placement quarterbacks in college football. I'm going to go Iowa State. I think that they're going to come out red hot out of the bye week, and they recognize the opportunity that's ahead of them in the Big 12 Conference.
I think they might be a little rattled coming out of this bye week, but I'm still going Iowa State because, like you said, Rocco Becht. UNI, our other in-state team, they open up conference play against North Dakota. Who do you got?
I feel obligated just to give an Iowa sweep, but I just think that right now UNI is just a little bit behind North Dakota.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a close matchup one way or the other. I don't think it's a high-scoring game. Give me North Dakota.
Yeah, I am also going North Dakota just because the MVC is just tough. We have 2 more. LSU, Ole Miss, a nice SEC battle. It's at Ole Miss.
Yeah, one of my best friends is a diehard LSU fan, so I hate agreeing with him, but I'm going to go LSU. I think the quarterback play, again, is a separator. I think they have too many playmakers on the outside. And Ole Miss is either living up to they'll always either live up to the hype or they'll be sorely disappointing. They're really kind of barely ever in the middle. I think they're going to disappoint. I think LSU wins.
I do too. I am also going the Tigers. And then finally, the big one. College game days at it this week. A Big Ten matchup. Oregon, Penn State.
I think Oregon has better athletes, but I think that Penn State home field advantage is no joke.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it firsthand when Iowa went there for the whiteout a few years ago. I think the time zone difference and the fatigue is real. I'm going to go Penn State. I know James Franklin struggles to win against ranked teams, but I think he gets it done. If it was in Oregon, I'd probably pick Oregon, though.
I agree. Whiteout, right? Is it a whiteout this week?
I have not checked, but they would be very dumb not to have made it.
Yeah, it's a whiteout it in Ames, so we'll just say it is. But yes, I am too going Penn State. Well, thank you, David. Everyone give a round of applause to David Eickholt joining us this week. We have some of the best beat writers in Iowa, and I'm not saying that. We truly do. From the old guys that have been doing it for so long to the new guys coming in. I consider you a new guy, not the old guy, sorry. Thank you.
30 hasn't broken me that much yet, so I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us this week. When we come back, we will have the Springville volleyball team join us on stage. Well, hello and welcome back into On Iowa Live. We have the Springville volleyball team. Joining me now is their head coach, Michelle Jacobi. Let's just talk about the season, but maybe starting with this weekend. You guys hosted a big tournament.
We did. We did host this weekend. Did something a little bit different this year. We went with more of a round-robin style tournament.
Yeah.
So not so much pool play and bracket play, more just of a round-robin. We always run into a homecoming issue. And sometimes bracket play gets late in the day.
Yes.
And so we started a little earlier. A lot of teams like 5 matches.
Wow.
And then be done by 2 o'clock or so. So that's what we did this year. It seemed to work really well. Yeah. We went 3-2 this weekend.
Okay.
We had some highs and lows. We took out Monticello, Lone Tree, and we got a big win against Burlington in the afternoon. Did drop one to Cascade, which I felt like we probably should have came through on that.
Okay.
But that's kind of how volleyball goes sometimes.
Yes. This team, though, on top of the Tri-Rivers West standings right now, how does it feel to be on top of those?
Yeah, so we're just getting started. You know, the first part of our first 3 weeks, pretty much non-conference tournaments, play. Did do a quadrangular with like Cedar Rapids Wash and some bigger 5A schools a week or so ago. Came out 3-0 that night. Did have Mac Valley to start the conference last week. We went 5 sets with them, which we knew would be a tough battle.
Yeah.
They're probably us and them will probably battle for the title.
Yeah.
But we did get that one, so that's definitely a feather in our hat.
Yeah.
Heading down the road here as we continue in the Tri-Rivers.
You bet. What so far? I know it's still kind of early in the season. What does your team do so well?
I think we've bought into. We've been talking a lot about discipline. How do we start to do small things that lead to big things? You know, everybody wants to come out and compete and, win titles, go to state, all these things. But we've been talking a lot about, can we do the small things and get better every single day, that pays off down the road. So I think we're starting to buy into that.
Yeah.
And I hope that those small things lead to big things.
Let's say, what are some of those small things that maybe you talked about?
I think our passing is improving.
Okay.
I think the last few years we've really struggled in that area, serve, receive, and some of those things. I think that is really starting to come along. We've spent a lot of time doing that. And I think in those, situations where you've got to have a pass before you can have a set, before you can have a attack and score, those are first things first. And I do think we're starting to become more disciplined and a lot better in that area.
You bet. Where are you hoping to see maybe your team make a big jump, especially as we kind of get into the bulk of your season?
Yeah, I think our jump is going to have to be, we're really focused on, getting through the next 3 weeks of the conference. Conference isn't real strong right now, but obviously when, October 20th comes, that's when you really want to be at a point where, you're starting to peak,
yeah.
Right? Those 4 games heading into state is where you need to be ready to go. And, we've been talking about the highs and the lows. Sometimes we get in those pits, and how do we become the team that stays there all the time?
Yeah.
So that's where we're headed.
Isn't that the $1 million question for all coaches?
It is. Definitely is.
Absolutely.
Question.
Yeah.
How do you get that done, right?
Yeah. I don't have the answer. All right. We're going to have the rest of the team join us when we come back. Well, hello, and welcome back to OnIowa Live. We are joined by the Springville volleyball team, and I feel tiny sitting here right now. We have some players on the mic. Why don't we start with you? Please introduce yourself.
I'm Jacobi, and I'm a senior.
Beautiful. And?
I'm Callie Green, and I'm also a senior.
Awesome. Rowan, let's start with you. Where this team sits right now, is this kind of where you thought this team was going to be at this time?
I do think that we are right where we want to be. I think last year was a great start for us. Obviously, we came off my freshman year as a really good team. We were ranked #1, and then a building year in my sophomore year. And then last year we came really far, and I thought we had a chance to go to state, but obviously it didn't happen. And then this year we have a lot of seniors returning, and I think we're really working hard to get back to where we want to be.
Yeah. Do you know how many seniors you have?
We have 5.
5. Wonderful. You had that tournament that you hosted this week in Cali. How do you feel that went?
I felt like it went okay.
Okay.
We definitely had some ups and downs. There's definitely things that we could have done better, but we really pulled through in our last game.
Yeah, and when Coach is talking about these little things to fix and tweak and things like that, have you talked about maybe the little things this week that you want to focus on and what that is?
Yeah, I think, like she said, just the discipline of it and working on the little parts of our skills, I think, is what's going to really push us. And then the mental part of the game is really important to us as well, as something that we've really focused on.
Yes, and Coach mentioned passing as well. What have you guys been doing to work on that?
Well, personally, I'm not a passer, so I didn't really practice a lot of passing. So
You got it. Well, you're the setter?
yes.
Oh, that's fair. Do you want to add? I know obviously your height, you're obviously not there, but passing wise, what are you guys doing?
I think just working on staying low and doing the small things like getting back to base or tilting our platform is something that we've really worked on, and talking and just doing all the little small things that, you don't really see as important. You wouldn't think that are as important, but really are. I know that my Coach Michelle has talked about like college kids and college athletes even work on the small little things that you wouldn't think they would, and that's so important.
Yeah. Coach is mentioning too some bigger schools that you guys have faced, some tougher opponents. How do you think that's kind of paid off so far this season?
It helps us with like the faster pace.
Okay.
We're 1A, so we're kind of smaller, and then playing these bigger teams help us definitely just work on being faster and being more disciplined with ourselves.
Yeah. I'd say, what did you learn about yourself maybe in some of those matchups just against some of these bigger schools?
Just the speed of the game, I think, is really a big difference. 1A, you don't find a lot of you kind of have to work with what you have, and I think that's something that we have really focused on and really gotten better at, like the little small things. We've all worked as a team, and so I think sometimes bigger schools just have those pieces, and I think the speed of the game is a big part of that.
You bet. We talked about improvements and everything, but what do you think this team does so well?
I feel like, we're all very close with each other, so I feel like we're able to just like talk amongst each other, and then like have our friendships inside and outside of volleyball. So
you're saying you have fun outside of volleyball. What do you guys do for fun?
I think just school and practices.
School?
Yeah, school, we try to have fun. You got to make the most out of it.
What do you do outside of school?
At practices, we dance. We like to do the footloose, line dance, the footloose.
Footloose, okay.
Yep, just kind of make fun things out of, like, practices or more serious situations, but when we want to work hard, we can.
Yeah, so you're saying after this is over, you guys have to demonstrate the line dance.
That's up to them.
I'm making it mandatory. Anything else that you you're shaking your head behind me? What else do you guys do for fun to make
we try and do like team bonding things. We haven't done a lot this year, but last year we went to like Jacobi and stuff like that before volleyball started, but small things like that to just bring us together.
You bet. What are you hoping that this team can accomplish moving forward with the season? I know Coach obviously said October is kind of when things really kick into gear.
I think every team wants to make it to state, but I think our big thing is how can we execute as far as we can, and executing in the game is what's going to lead us to October 20th and hopefully to the first week of November and to make it down to state. But I think just keeping our record and keeping the consistency, as Coach mentioned, is a big thing of that, and just getting back to kind of where we were last year, but even going farther and hopefully making it to those big games and big stages.
Yeah, and as a senior, this is kind of your last of everything. Are you soaking in, enjoying it? Have you talked about it amongst your fellow seniors?
Yeah, we're trying to for sure.
Yeah. Anything that you're saying just about you, like amongst your senior class that...
kind of just like take it all in, because it's like obviously your last year, and maybe not all of us are going to go to college for like sports and stuff, so it's like our last year all being together, and
You bet. Well, thank you guys for all joining me. I appreciate it. Give it up for the Springville volleyball team, guys. We will be back here once again next week on Monday on another episode of OnIowa Live. We'll see you then.